The Phoenix Light is arguably one of the most well-known UFO sightings on record, with multiple witnesses ranging from civilians to public officials and with footage and pictures captured. The incident, while perhaps played down at the time, has since been seen as one of the most credible UFO events ever, and continues to fascinate UFO researchers and enthusiasts today, almost a quarter of a century later. The state of Arizona is without a doubt one of the most scenic, historic and mysterious parts of the United States, and is home to a population of approximately 7 million people. It is also a state with a long history of UFO sightings, and on the evening of March 13, 1997, was home to one of the most famous and most viewed UFO incidents in history. That night, residents of Phoenix witnessed these lights in the skies overhead. Many took to the streets to view the aerial display, with some managing to capture video or photographs. In fact, the first recorded sighting of the evening came from the neighbouring state of Nevada at just before 8 p.m. Mountain Time, when a local resident reported seeing 6 large lights spread evenly in a triangular formation. He would recall the lights appeared to be part of a large object that was approximately the size of a 747 jet. As you can see from this footage, whatever the residents of Phoenix and other locations around the state of Arizona witnessed that evening, it is certainly something out of the ordinary. Perhaps one of the most intriguing details of the Phoenix Lights is the fact that a pilot that first made a report of the incident to the control tower was Hollywood actor Kurt Russell. Russell, who is a qualified pilot, was flying his son Oliver from Los Angeles to Phoenix on the night in question, when he witnessed the strange lights as he prepared to land.
There's these bank of lights, 6 lights, in the shape of a triangle going back, right over the airport. And I'm looking at them as I'm coming in. I'm, on the horn talking to them, and I'm coming in. And I'm not saying anything about it because I'm kind of confused by it, but I can't tell if this is going to be an issue or not with landing. And Oliver said, hey, Pa, what are those lights? And I said, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they are. And so anyway, I called up the tower and I said, what are you guys painting tonight over the airport? And they said, we're not showing anything. What are you seeing? I said, well, there's 6 lights in a row. And they said, do you want to report this? And I said, look, I can't identify it. It's flying and it's 6 objects. So that's what it is, right?
Russell continued that he thought little of the sighting until several years later when his wife, Goldie Hawn, was watching a documentary about UFOs at their home. As Russell listened to the show in the background, he suddenly became aware that the pilot they were referring to was him. Around 20 minutes after the first sighting in Nevada, a policeman left his home in Arizona and began his drive to work. As he drove along the highway, his attention eventually turned skyward. There above him, he saw the triangular formation of orange lights that many residents of the state would witness a short time later. From there was, according to Phoenix switchboard operators and UFO reporting groups, a blitz of reports from the public of the strange lights overhead. And what's more, the vast majority of these reports were clearly describing the same thing. These reports would come in waves, with the first cluster coming mainly from the Prescott and Prescott Valley areas of the state, around 50 miles north of Phoenix. One of those sightings was from the Lay family.
Al and I had been coming back from visiting some friends, and normally we try to eat dinner by 8 o'clock. We were running a little late, pulled into the driveway, which we were heading west. Hal was sitting in the front, and as I came around to the side of the door, he looked out the side window, and he saw up in the direction of Prescott 5 distinct lights that it actually looked like they were on top of a balloon. As we were looking at them, I said, well, what is that? Is that a balloon with lights on it? Why would they have lights on a balloon like that? And, the lights were so clear and distinct, and they were very close together. But as we watched them, then we could see that whatever this was coming towards us because the distance between the lights started getting greater and greater. At that point, he ran in the house and got my wife, Bobby, to come out and take a look and see what was going on. So when Bobby came out, we're standing there watching. My grandson, who's older than Hal, he was also there. And we watched these lights. I'd say the time it took from when we first spotted them until this thing actually went over a house was about 10 or 12 minutes. And this thing never wavered once. It always came directly straight at us. As we were standing there watching it, after a few minutes, maybe 6 or 8 minutes, I'm not sure. All of a sudden, instead of being 5 lights in a round arc shape, that lead light seemed to come out in front, and now it looked like a V formation flying towards us.
There were many other people who saw the bizarre lights around the state of Arizona that evening, and all of them were struck with how large the apparent object was and how slowly and silently it moved overhead. Almost all of them described the lights moving in a distinct V formation, and people saw the lights in various locations, from their homes, their backyards, and from their cars. One witness, a truck driver, even claimed to have seen 3 military jets headed in the direction of the object after having seemingly been scrambled from nearby Luke Air Force Base. Although there was no confirmation of any jets being scrambled, one witness who claimed to have spoken to an operator at the base claimed he was told they had been deluged with reports. The lights, whatever they were seemingly taking a very steady and purposeful course of the state. By the time they had reached Phoenix, many news outlets were well aware of the strange goings-on overhead. As a result, there would be a surge of media coverage both on television and in print regarding the incident, at least for several days after the sighting. As well as the many citizens of the city who witnessed something truly strange that evening, there were several high-ranking officials. One of those was Governor Fife Symington. He would admit, years later, he had indeed seen something strange that evening, but he held a press conference at the time to a very mixed response.
He held a news conference after the Phoenix lights to announce the mystery had been solved.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Don't get him too close to me, please.
In the alien costume, the governor's chief of staff.
Now, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
UFO enthusiasts were not amused, especially since the governor was believed to have seen nothing. But now he's coming out.
Symington would later state he regretted that stunt and would ultimately reveal that he too had seen something out of the ordinary in an interview in 2014.
I'm serious now. That unquestionably it was a UFO, which means unidentified flying object.
Right. Doesn't mean we're being visited.
Well, it's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
And you're an Air Force guy.
Yeah, and a pilot. Got a lot of hours flying. So it was pretty breathtaking. And I'll never forget, I snuck out to see it, without DPS, which I'm not supposed to be driving my own car and that kind of thing. And so, but I told Ann what I was doing. I was going to go up to Squaw Peak and see what everybody was, clamoring about. And when I walked in the front door, she looked at me, and I was apparently just, normally I'm fair-complected and pale anyway, right? And she said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "she looked like a ghost. What did you see?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what I saw, but it was really something, and I'm not going to talk about it."
Whatever he did see that evening in Phoenix, Symington would go on to state that the sheer size of the craft alone eliminated it from being a secret military aircraft. And what's more, it was the biggest thing in the skies he had ever seen. And we should remind ourselves that Symington is a former pilot with experience in aviation. He would conclude that unless the US military could provide proof otherwise, that what was seen that evening was very likely a technologically advanced alien craft. Another UFO researcher who has investigated the Phoenix Lights incident extensively is Dr. Lynn Katai, who not only experienced the events themselves, but had a very similar sighting 2 years previously.
Both my husband and I witnessed 3 amber orbs in a triangle formation, one on top and 2 closely aligned underneath, very close to our home, about 100 yards from our home, hovering above a private desert area. It was startling. And it was amazing. At the same time, there was nothing there but blackness and these 3 amber orbs. And something told me to take everything in, the size, the shape, the color, the distance. They were about 3 to 6 feet each, depending on how close or far away they were. They were definitely oval shape. And the amber color within each orb, and I call them an orb because the light did not extend outside the edge at all. It was totally self-contained. It was very uniform, amber color, and it didn't glare at all. Every other light out there glares. And we have a beautiful panoramic view of the city skyline, so we know what helicopters and plane lights and street lights and so forth. Every light out there glares. These did not. Very soothing, very mesmerizing.
This is one of the pictures captured by Dr. Katai from a 1995 sighting. It certainly looks remarkably similar to the lights witnessed over Phoenix 2 years later. We can gain a general idea of just what was parading itself over Phoenix and other areas of Arizona by extracting the most common and corroborative descriptions of the many witness statements. The lights, for example, had an alien quality to them. Many reports would state they appeared to swim within their solid casing. Others would say they were like gaseous globes, and like Dr. Gatai's description, they didn't glare. It is estimated that the V-shaped craft was at least a mile wide from end to end. This, as Symington claimed, is easily much larger than any aircraft known to the public. And while it isn't impossible that the object was a clandestine military craft, the sheer size of it combined with the slowness with which it moved would suggest a technology far advanced of our own. If we return our attention to Lynn Gattai once again, and her extensive research into the Phoenix Lights incident, we can see here her knowledge of the case and her conviction of what really happened that night.
With Dr. Gattai, and tell me about what people can expect when they come here. I imagine a lot of people are saying, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Actually, I stayed anonymous for 7 years as a medical doctor before I came forward, and we're so excited because now we have the data. This is 21 years of studying the data, and it still cannot be explained or denied, and we're so thrilled that Hark and Shay will be hosting an event on Sunday. It's the only mainstream event of its kind where we show the documentary, our internationally award-winning documentary, on the big silver screen. We have speakers, including Navajo Rangers, who are law enforcement studying these things, as well as a Zuni elder who talks about the Native American connection. That's really profound and amazing. Travis Walton, if you remember the movie.
Well, yeah, Fire in the Sky. That's another one here in Arizona as well.
Absolutely. And Councilwoman Frances Barwood, who was the only elected official who came forward to ask for a reenactment, which happened 3 years after the mass sighting. 3 Air National Guards tried to reenact the Phoenix Lights and failed. And also we have this one wonderful doctor who also, an MD, who also stayed anonymous for 21 years.
Yeah, the first time that we're going to hear from him about his experience.
Absolutely. He was with his family coming up from Tucson to Phoenix, and it was right over their car for some time. And the amazing thing, too, is that the DOD just came forward in December. A New York Times article divulged that Harry Reid actually requested a study. They are studying it now at the Pentagon, and it was funded $22 million. And just like myself, I mean, they don't know what these things were, but they know that they are, and they're far advanced from what we have.
So I know
this picture was taken in the early 2000s, and this video footage was captured much more recently in 2021. Both look remarkably similar to the Phoenix Lights of 1997. Is there a connection? And if so, what makes this area of the United States so special? Even more intriguing, in 2019 another incident unfolded, as you can see here from this local news report.
A few folks in Mesa, quite the thrill, but explaining what you're seeing on your screen, that is a little bit more difficult. ABC 15's Cameron Polum is on the hunt for answers tonight.
It was about straight up over here, and it went straight that way.
Stopped. From outside their Mesa home, DJ Mayer and Carrie Burnett shot this video Sunday around 9 p.m.
And it started kind of moving diagonal across, trying to figure out which way it was heading. And as it did, that's when we noticed it started dropping things from it.
The object, captured on 2 cell phones, looks like a bright orb hovering silently in the sky, every few moments dropping what looks to be flares towards the ground.
And it wasn't just us. Our neighbors next door, they were out. They weren't even filming. They were more in amazement, like statues, just sitting there watching it.
DJ immediately posted the video to Facebook, and the comments rolled in, but none had an explanation for what they were seeing.
Finally, the aliens are here. Wow, that's crazy.
The entire event harkens back to 1997 and the mysterious Phoenix Lights, one that remains in hot debate even today.
So what was the official explanation for the Phoenix Lights? Representatives from Luke Air Force Base would insist that what had been seen that evening was nothing more than flares that were launched from an aircraft near a nearby firing range. These flares, claimed the military, were slow falling and long burning, and consequently appeared to hover. Many people simply do not accept this explanation. Was there a suppression of evidence or even a cover-up concerning the events that evening? Some researchers point to the apparent lack of coverage of the incident in the print media. While numerous television channels were more than happy to carry any footage residents would offer their way, the print media would stay largely clear of the event. Why they did this is perhaps open to debate. What is perfectly clear though, is that something very strange occurred that evening over Arizona in March 1997.